Apex Legends is down bad. The game's viewership is way down, interest seems to be waning, and the player peak on the season's release is 100,000 players less than last time. And that begs the question, did Respawn give up on Apex Legends? The first clue that led me to this conclusion was the massive drop in live Apex viewership, with large amounts of players leaving to other newer titles such as Overwatch 2 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. On YouTube I also noticed that the usual gameplay and educational content were not doing nearly as good as it used to, with an overall loss of interest and viewership. This was especially true for content based around the new seasons, such as tips for the new season, new legend guides, new map guides, that sort of stuff. This was further confirmed by the gaming merchant himself and other Apex creators who replied to my Twitter thread when I was talking about the issue. What finally sealed my hypothesis is that we are seeing a 100,000 player drop compared to the season 14 release, which actually was the player peak at the time. And this is a huge deal, because we rarely see new titles having this lasting of an effect on Apex's numbers. Sure, there's usually a boom of interest at the release of a new season, and the game always has its lows right at the end of the season before things pick up, only to blow right back up to the #1 spot when a new season would be released. Except this time, it didn't. Apex was already on its knees while waiting for the new season, and it took two massive blows from Overwatch 2 and Modern Warfare 2. And meanwhile, queue times are getting longer, with many regions, including NA, starting to migrate back over to EU servers just to have a decent queue time. In the case of ranked, Diamond players from NA had to queue up on European servers just to get into a game in the first place. With the high concentration of pros and streamers, also came the cheaters and DDoSers, making players even less inclined to continue grinding. And speaking of cheaters, there's currently a way to start Apex without anti-cheat. Just flat out, you start the game and there's no anti-cheat, which definitely leads to the increase of cheaters as well, but that's another story. Public casual games are also getting sweatier since more sweaty players leave rank to play pubs, leading to the average Apex fan getting angrier, and flavors within the community are breaking out more regularly. Aim assist, SBMM, dunking on pros and streamers is turned up to the max. The Apex community has been in a bad place for some time now, and this might just make it even worse. But what was the final blow that brought Apex to its knees? The simple answer would be, Season 15 patch notes, or rather, I guess the lack of thereof. Season 15 only introduced a new map, a new legend, but it didn't have any more substantial changes, and having a filler season would normally be fine. We've had it in the past, but legends such as Seer have been dominating the meta, and players were expecting a change, as a nerf was long overdue. In reality, most of the community was already expecting him to get nerfed a whole season ago, so the change was already long overdue back then. But when the new season rolled out, there was nothing. To be fair, leakers have found evidence of the next heirloom being Seers, so maybe in a typical Respawn fashion, they're waiting to release that before nerfing him to the ground. We'll just have to wait and see. The quality of ranked has also been in a downward spiral ever since the ranked reloaded update back in season 13, where the ranked system was rehauled to cater to a sweatier, more tournament-like playstyle, but it was delivered poorly, and it was received badly to the point where the ranked mode almost died completely. To fix this, Respawn made a knee-jerk reaction the other way, and now we have a ranked experience where full Predator squads run through golds on the daily, meaning that the ranked system is nothing more than a glorified pub stomp. As far as content goes, Apex is also struggling, especially when keeping in mind that Apex Mobile gets infinitely more content, high quality skins, and even solos. Though I'll give Respawn a break here, since they did add a new map and legend this season, and that does qualify as content. And it might be hard to see as a day-to-day player, but if we take Apex events as a content benchmark and count the events that had new limited time modes, new interesting features, and all that type of stuff, the game had a peak of interesting Apex events in 2020 and 2021, with the events in the second half of 21 basically only being new collection events with the return of older recycled LTMs. I'm currently covering the game's all events and how they have affected Apex as a whole, and that video will show up on channel, so make sure that you did subscribe for that. And I'm mentioning that because in that video, the runtime for each year is 5 minutes for 2019, 10 minutes for 2020, 10 more minutes for 2021, and so far 2022 clocks in at 4 minutes of content. To be fair, I could be getting ahead of myself. We should be getting one more limited time mode by the end of the year, probably the holiday bash, but at this rate, I would not hold my breath for anything enormous. However, the lack of content is not the only issue. With the new patch came a plethora of new issues. The game lags, it constantly freezes for some players, and at the time of me recording this video, Respawn are investigating it, but basing off their phrasing and troubleshooting, it does seem like they might be grasping at straws as to why it's actually crashing. DDoSing has made its way back into the game, and servers are regularly being taken down by ill-willed script kiddies. Meanwhile, the cheaters are out in full swing, especially since most streamers were forced into the EU servers just to get any games to pop in the first place, making those servers prime targets for the cheaters to get an easy reaction. And speaking of servers, they randomly get incredibly high packet loss, which makes the player get stuck in the ground, or just give everyone on the server an incredibly high ping for no reason. And that's not to mention the countless of issues the game already had: audio, matchmaking, lag, optimization, the rank system, exploits, bugs, hit rates, to name a few. All this patch did was worsen some existing issues or add even more to the pile. Console players have been holding on for cross progression since forever, and 120 FPS next-gen patch for next-gen consoles, yeah, nothing on that front either. Except that Respawn did rescind their previous promise that we'd see cross progression in 2022, and they instead said that they just didn't have an estimated date anymore. But hey, at least we got stickers and the gifting feature, even though it didn't work on launch. I'm sorry to come off as a doomer, but that is the reality of the situation that we are in. But here's the thing, some would, and probably many, consider Apex to be at its lowest point in recent history. Yeah, there's been hiccups, but the game has been growing and improving consistently since it was released in 2019, and probably will continue growing. EA has repeatedly stated that Apex is their golden goose, and that they have a 10-year plan in store. And the game doing poorly this season might just be what Apex needs. Just hear me out here. Content and features have been becoming more dry as time has been going on, but the game has continued to grow despite that. This season was the first to break that growth, and I'm sure that there are lengthy meetings behind the closed doors about why that is happening. Content creators can see it, players can see it, and you can bet that Respawn knows about it too. Maybe they just had to know where the limit was and how much they could get away with, and it does seem like now we might have actually found our bottom. I'm hoping that we'll see a long, hard look in the mirror from the management over at Respawn, and that we either see more resources or at least more focus poured into their most significant title. I know they have several projects over there, including a single-player game set in the Apex universe, but that doesn't mean you can neglect your main title. The bottom line is hurting, which means that the managers have to step in and correct the ship. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was the push they needed to make that decision. We did see some features in the Broken Moon dev stream that didn't make it to the live game, and there is a chance that we'll get those legend changes later in the season. But if there isn't, there's still time for the next season to get the game back on course. However, keep in mind, dev cycles are several seasons long, and there's a chance it might even take longer. Season 16 might also be a filler. But one thing is for certain, I don't think Respawn or even EA will let another fumble like this happen again. I'm going to stick around and see how they'll pull themselves out of this situation. We might have a few dark days of Apex ahead of us, but I certainly believe there's light at the end of the tunnel. That said, I might hedge my bets with some content in other games, maybe Overwatch. Curious to hear what you guys think about that, but who knows? Maybe the solution has been under our and Respawn's nose all the time. What is Apex losing to? There's Overwatch 2, which is a remake and a large meta rebalance from the original game, removing one of the roles outright and turning it from a 6v6 to a 5v5 game, and will feature a campaign mode. And then there's Modern Warfare 2, a modern remaster of Modern Warfare, including a new campaign with some of the same characters from the first, both currently taking a large portion of Apex usual market share. So my suggestion to you, Respawn, and I know that sounds crazy, release Apex Legends 2.